Howdy, howdy. We are back for a special episode of Cogdell Law Uncensored. I'm your host, Aaron. With me always, producer Tommy in the back, star of the show, Dan Cogdell, and our special guest, Mr. James Talarico. Mr. James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You can't say I'm the star of the show when we have Talarico on.
Star of our show. He's a special guest.
That's right.
Very special. All right, so let's get down to it, James. Texas hasn't elected a statewide individual since 1994. That's before my 30-year-old plus son was born. So what is specifically different about your campaign, and why should people not only vote for you but donate their time and their money?
Well, I've been on the campaign trail for 8 months now, and I've gone to every corner of Texas, from Beaumont to El Paso, from Amarillo to Brownsville, and everywhere in between. And I've been shocked by the number of people turning out at our rallies, at our town halls. I can't tell you the number of people who have come up to me at the end of these events and whispered, "I'm not a Democrat," like they're in the witness protection program. And the number of young people who have been coming to our events, donating, volunteering, it's unprecedented. There is something happening in the state of Texas. I get the sense that people are hungry for a different kind of politics, one that's rooted in old-fashioned values of honesty, integrity, service, some things we've gotten away from in recent years. But I really do believe that those old-fashioned values are about to make a comeback in 2026.
That's outstanding. All right, so let's ask you at least one kind of hard question.
Yeah.
Name a real issue: immigration, energy, gun control, where you would vote against traditional Democratic leadership.
Yeah, and I've been bucking my own party since I got elected in 2018. I flipped a Trump district in Williamson County, Texas, a county that was so red it hadn't voted for a Democrat.
I was not aware of that.
That's right. Yeah, Round Rock and Hutto and Taylor and Georgetown, these are all cities that I won.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And I did that by being independent. I'm a proud Texas Democrat. This is Lyndon Johnson's Senate seat that I'm running for.
Okay.
And I'm proud of that legacy. But I already have a religion and I already have a sports team. So I have no problem sharing hard truths with my own party. So let's just take the first issue you mentioned, border security. I called out Joe Biden for failing to secure our southern border. And I got a lot of heat in my own party for doing that. But I remember talking with my colleagues in the legislature who represent border communities, and they told me about the utter chaos caused by President Biden's policies. And the Democratic Party, we're the ones that should be about making government work for people.
Right.
And our immigration system is a prime example of government not working for people. And so I'm a border security Democrat. I believe we've got to have a sane, orderly process to ensure that we know who's coming into our country. And I'm all for welcoming immigrants who want to work hard and live the American dream, who want to make us richer and stronger, as immigrants have always done. But I also think we have to keep out folks who mean to do us harm. And public safety is the most important thing the government does. More important than public education, more important than public health. Nothing matters if we're not keeping people safe. So that's where I'm at on immigration. On energy, I think we need an all-of-the-above energy strategy.
Okay.
We have to protect good-paying oil and gas jobs. I've had family members who have worked in the oil and gas industry. I went to Texas public schools funded by Texas Oil and Gas. So I owe a lot to the industry. And I know that some of these jobs keep whole families afloat. Sure. And so I want to protect our status as an energy leader here in Texas. That also means investing in renewables. We're number one in wind and solar, and those are good jobs too. I want us to be number one in batteries and geothermal. I want us to leverage our energy expertise as a state to really lead the country and the world into the future. So, and then you mentioned guns. I am a believer in the Second Amendment. I don't pick and choose between the Bill of Rights. I believe in the Second Amendment just as much as I believe in the First. We have a right to bear arms to protect ourselves, our families. We have a right to own weapons for sport or for hunting. But like any freedom in the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. You have a freedom of speech, but you can't yell fire in a crowded building. You have a freedom to assemble, to protest, but you need a permit before you go, start a rally on a street corner somewhere. The same is true for our Second Amendment. We got to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals. We got to make sure that we've got safe storage laws and background checks so that we're keeping everybody safe. My granddad, my grandpa Talarico, taught me how to shoot in Harper, Texas on his ranch. And the thing he emphasized the most was safety, how to operate a firearm safely. And so I think that's a common value that we all share in this conversation is how do we defend and protect the Second Amendment while also keeping everyone safe? And it's going to be a balance. But right now we have extremes on this issue. We have people on the left who are trying to take away people's guns, and we have people on the right, like the NRA, that don't want to see any regulations. Right. And so what I'm looking for is kind of a middle path, a common sense path to defend our constitutional rights and also protect our safety.
Outstanding. So let's talk about education. You mentioned it. So best case, Texas is middle of the pack, educationally speaking. We're 25th in education overall, 38th in fourth grade reading, 44th in eighth grade reading, and 34th in eighth grade math. What needs to change, and what do you propose to do about it if elected senator?
Well, I think we should all be outraged by those numbers. I'm
100%.
I'm an eighth generation Texan. I believe in Texas exceptionalism, that this is a special state. It's a special place with a special spirit. And I think that our education system should be second to none. I think we should be leading the nation in educational outcomes. You know that I was a teacher before I ran for office. Right. Through Teach for America, I served on the Westside of San Antonio in one of the poorest zip codes in our state. And I saw how decisions made in the legislature, in the Congress, hurt a lot of poor kids in the state. Kids who have so much potential, who are children of promise, and yet our underfunding of public education, our education policies have held them back. I had, at one point, when I was a teacher, 45 students in one classroom. 45 students in one room. There weren't enough desks for all those kids, so I had students sitting on the air conditioning unit in the wealthiest nation in human history, in one of the wealthiest states in that wealthy country. In the 21st century, kids sitting on the air conditioning unit. So I want to be a voice for education reform in our nation's capital. I think we got to focus on a few things. One is teacher pay, both raising the floor for all teachers so that the starting salary is competitive with the McKinseys and the Deloittes of the world. If we want to recruit the best and brightest coming out of our colleges and universities, we have to have a competitive starting salary for teachers. And then on top of that, I want to create, like I did here in Texas through our school finance reform bill that I helped draft, pathways for our best, most effective teachers to earn six-figure salaries. Because this is the most important profession. No offense to the legal profession, but we wouldn't have lawyers if we didn't have teachers.
Oh, I totally agree.
So everything starts with a good teacher in a classroom. And that means we got to pay our teachers what they're worth. We got to professionalize the field, and we got to ensure that we're recruiting the best and the brightest. The second thing I'd focus on is early childhood. The first 1,000 days of a child's life are the most important when it comes to brain development. I just became an uncle 3 years ago. My baby niece Jane turned 3 at the end of March, and you can tell how much is happening in her brain and how much she can absorb and learn. You know, it takes me forever to change my ways, and for a little kid like that, they're able to absorb so much information and their brains are so malleable. It's something like 1,000 neural connections are formed every second in those first 3 years of a child's life. And so having high quality, universal early childhood education for every kid in the country, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their skin color, could be a game changer. The last thing I'd prioritize is this discipline crisis in our public schools. You know, I had good control over my classroom. I had a good veteran teacher who told me, if you don't have control over your classroom, you don't have anything else. And your kids aren't going to learn if there's chaos in your classroom. We obviously have a mental health crisis among young people in this country. It's not being treated. I think ensuring there are more counselors and more mental health professionals to help our young people process everything they're going through, and giving our teachers training on how to manage a classroom effectively. Because it really is, being a teacher is a management position.
Sure.
And so I think all three of those things are the most urgent priorities facing our education system.
That's great stuff. James, I hear consistent tropes about you being way too liberal for Texas, that you're pro-sex surgery for minors, and on and on and on. How do you respond to that?
Well, just on that particular accusation, I oppose gender reassignment surgeries for minors. I think what's happening is the people that are in power know that there's a backlash to the extremism and the corruption in our government. And so they're going to use a tried and true playbook to get out of this: distraction and division. That is how corrupt public officials stay in power. They divide us by party, by race, by gender, by religion, by culture, so that we don't notice that they're picking our pockets, that they are closing our public schools. It's happening all over Texas, including in my district. They are gutting our health care. I mean, you've seen how premiums have just skyrocketed across the state. They are cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends while they raise taxes on working people. So this is the oldest strategy in the world: divide and conquer. Right. And I think Texans are waking up to the fact that we're all being played, that we're all being pitted against each other by the algorithms and the news networks and the crooked politicians. And I think what people are hungry for is a campaign that's going to bring us together.
And that is exactly why I am supporting you. As you know, I defended Ken Paxton for years in the impeachment trial and in state criminal cases. But in my view, respectfully, I think Ken has lost sight of his core mission, which is to represent the people of Texas. And unlike Ken, I believe to my core, James, that you believe in unity over division, and that you know how to assemble not only Democrats, but independents and Republicans. And we need that right now. We need it more than in my lifetime, and I'm old as dirt. But we need unity. We don't need any more division, and that's why I'm supporting you.
Well, one, I believe that everyone deserves good representation, and everyone deserves a good lawyer. Ken Paxton has a criminal record. I have a legislative record. I've served for 4 terms in the Texas House of Representatives, where I've brought Democrats and Republicans together to solve problems. I mean, that's the only reason that I ran for office,
right,
was to solve problems. I'm not interested in pitting people against each other. I'm not interested in selling out for mega donors and special interests. Like I want to serve. And, last night I thanked Senator Cornyn for his many years of service to this state. He and I don't agree on everything, but he served this state honorably. And he and I both still believe in this old-fashioned idea of service, that these positions of public trust are about serving our neighbors, not serving ourselves, not serving our mega donors, right, but serving the people. And I think we got to get back to that.
It's remarkable that you thanked him for his service. I mean, good for you. So let's go there. Are you going to try to win over some of his supporters?
Absolutely.
And how are you going to do that?
Well, I think that people are hungry for a senator who's going to deliver on the things that we care about. They want a senator who's going to lower costs, the cost of housing, the cost of childcare, the cost of prescription drugs, the cost of groceries and gas. And they want someone who's going to unify the state, unify elected officials to actually get those things done. I have a track record of doing that. I think the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
Well, let's go there.
And I want people to look at my record.
Yeah, so as a state rep, what have you passed in the Republican legislature, and what does that say about your ability to operate in a Republican-led Senate?
I've passed 60 bipartisan bills in just my first 4 terms, and they've been consequential bills on teacher pay, on housing, on childcare, on prescription drugs. You may know that I'm a type 1 diabetic. I was diagnosed when I was 29, which is pretty late in life to be a type 1. And I remember I got out of the ICU. I was lucky to be alive, to be honest with you. I went to Walgreens to pick up my first 30-day supply of insulin, this new medicine that I now needed to live every day.
Right.
And that 30-day supply of insulin cost me $684.
Wow.
I didn't have that kind of money. I put it on a credit card, and I soon learned that Texans with diabetes, some of them were rationing or skipping doses. Some of them were dying because they couldn't afford their insulin. So when I won that race in Williamson County, I brought Democrats and Republicans together to beat Big Pharma and their lobbyists, and we capped insulin at $25 per prescription.
That's remarkable.
In the state of Texas. So politics it's dirty, it's soul-sucking at times, but there are moments, if you bring people together, that you can actually save people's lives. The fact that there are people walking around in our state because of a bill that I passed through the legislature, it makes all of this worth it in my mind.
That's awesome.
And just think about what we could do at the federal level if we brought people together to actually serve Texans.
Speaking of the gut checks, my former client Ken Paxton's calling you low T, Talarico. Trump's calling you a vegan. I mean,
well, I'm an 8th generation Texan. I know Ken Paxton's not from Texas, but my family's been here since it was Mexico. So I've been eating barbecue since before Ken Paxton's first indictment. And I think, if the best they have is lying about me being a vegan, I feel pretty good about our chances in November.
Look, James, I know your time is very precious, so I'll leave you with this last question. Can you outline your policy platform in about a minute or less for us, just so if we only need to know 3 or 4 things
I'll go
about
fast.
Talarico? No, take all your time, but give us 3 or 4 shots.
The first thing I would prioritize is getting big money out of our politics. Overturning Citizens United, banning super PACs and corporate PACs, banning members of Congress from trading stocks and enriching themselves while they're in office. This is the rot at the core of this whole broken system. So I know it sounds like inside baseball, but until we fix the system itself, we're not going to make progress on all these other issues. And then once we do that, I would immediately prioritize repealing these crazy tariffs so that we can start to reduce food prices. Texans are feeling the pain every time they go to the grocery store. They're also feeling the pain at the pump. And so I've already proposed that we suspend the federal gas tax, which would immediately drop the price of gas by 18 cents a gallon immediately. And then I've also said that we should suspend the federal diesel tax, which, this crazy new war in Iran has increased the price of both gas and diesel. But when you have diesel prices going up, that increases the price of everything because every good you buy has been shipped by diesel. So those are 3 things that I would prioritize as soon as I get to Washington as the next U.S. Senator from Texas. Texans need relief, and there's only one candidate in this race who has a track record of actually fighting and delivering for working people rather than himself. And that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I think we're going to be successful in November.
Well, it's an honor to have you on our show. Thank you.
The honor's all mine.
Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, James.
Thank you.
Thanks.